The forest was cursed, or so the villagers believed. They spoke in hushed tones of the Forgotten Grove, a secluded area deep within the woods where no birds sang and no animals dared tread. Many who entered were never seen again. One cold, moonlit night, 4 friends, Claire, Mark, Jenna, and Paul, decided to challenge the legend. Armed with flashlights and camping gear, they trekked into the woods, scoffing at the warnings. Hours later, they reached the grove. The air was icy, and the trees looked ancient, their bark blackened as if burned. A strange mist curled around their ankles, and the silence pressed on their ears. "This is it," Paul said, kicking at the ground. "Not so scary." Suddenly, Claire froze, staring at the ground. "What's that?" she whispered. In the center of the grove lay a withered tree, its twisted branches reaching upward like skeletal arms. Around it were hundreds of small, crude wooden dolls, each nailed to the ground with rusted spikes. Jenna leaned closer, her flashlight trembling. They look like people," she whispered, pointing at the dolls. Each one had a face, roughly carved but disturbingly detailed. Mark laughed nervously. "Whoever made these has way too much time on their hands." As he reached to pick one up, Claire screamed, "Don't touch it!" But it was too late. The moment Mark lifted the doll, a deafening crack echoed through the grove. The twisted tree split open, revealing a hollow filled with countless glowing red eyes. The dolls began to move, their tiny limbs jerking unnaturally. One by one, they turned to face the group. "Run!" Claire shouted. But the forest was alive now, the trees closing in, their roots clawing at the ground. The dolls swarmed, climbing onto Mark, their wooden hands clawing at his skin. He screamed as they dragged him toward the hollow tree. The others tried to flee, but the mist thickened, blinding them. Paul tripped, and before Claire and Jenna could help him, the dolls were upon him, pulling him into the ground as though it had turned to quicksand. Claire and Jenna stumbled into a clearing, gasping for air. They looked back to see the grove, now eerily calm. The dolls lay still, and the tree stood whole again, as if nothing had happened. But Mark and Paul were gone. The villagers found Claire and Jenna the next morning, trembling and incoherent. The grove, they claimed, had no such tree or dolls. But when they looked closer at the edge of the woods, they found new dolls, eerily resembling Mark and Paul, nailed into the ground. The villagers said no more, only tightening the locks on their doors before nightfall.